And we're going to get started and about right now. I think we said 10 o'clock. We're going to start at 10 o'clock, and we appreciate your time and we value your time for being with us today. My name is Jenni Benson, and I am the proud president of the Nebraska State Education Association. And with me, I have Maddie Fennell, who is the Nsea Executive Director. Thank you very much for joining us. And yes, you may record. You're off of, this is being recorded as well. And we are going to post this as soon as we're finished. So if you want to record while we're doing this, that is perfectly acceptable. And Maddie's going to start our PowerPoint. We are going to run through the statistics from our survey and several other things and give you some information background before we open it up to questions. I will over and over thank you for being here. I will also say that this is a tough situation for our educators in Nebraska. It's a tough situation for all of us, and we appreciate the work that everyone is doing to keep people informed and to also listen to the stories that we're going to tell you today with a perspective of educators across the state of Nebraska. On October 23rd, we sent this survey out. You see here, we sent it to 18,693 members, and we received over 6,500 responses. Considering the high demand on teachers right now, 35% is an excellent return rate. Someone will probably put in the chat, but you can view all the survey results at nsea.org/survey, and someone will put that in the chat for you as well. All right.
Jenni, this is Karen. We have a number of reporters who are saying they don't have permission to record, but I believe they do. So Kelsey and Christy want to make sure that you've seen the chat. Thanks, Jenni, for letting me interrupt. I apologize.
Thank you. That is Karen Kilgaren, our communications director, and I know a lot of you have reached out to her as well. All right, Maddie, next slide. Statewide, 59% of our educators who answered the survey, and keep in mind this is PK-12 educators, do not believe that the learning model that we are currently using is equitable. That percentage increases to over 89% in the Lincoln and Omaha area. Statewide, 92% of our respondents support a mask mandate for schools, while 98% of Lincoln and Omaha 98% of Lincoln and 96% of Omaha members support a mask mandate. That is overwhelming support of a mask mandate. Teachers are accustomed to collecting a lot of data, and it's been frustrating through the years as a special education educator, as a teacher, that data isn't used appropriately. Sometimes we just collect data for the sake of data. And we want you to know that the data that we're collecting, the data that we're sharing is data that's very valid and that we're using it for action. At first glance, it might be good to say that 70% say their students are provided enough PPE. That is out of every 3 to 4 individuals in our school. Think of it this way. That means 25 to 30% do not have appropriate PPE. That is a health and safety issue. The next question, my district is listening to educator input. 52% of the educators statewide say their district is not listening to educator input. That increased to 75% in Omaha and Lincoln. I have enough planned time to prepare for my teaching workload. We all know that teachers work outside their hours. They're not just working during school hours. That has always been the case. Educators are always putting in tons and tons of extra hours. When I was the LEA president, we did a survey, and the average when we did the survey, and this was many years ago, the average was 16 hours a week above the school day. So having enough plan time now in the middle of this pandemic is not happening. Statewide, 59% do not have enough plan time. LEA is 76%, OEA is 78%. I want to say that we are highlighting Lincoln and Omaha in regard to giving their statistics out as well, because those are our two largest locals in the state. This is a very troubling slide. This is a very troubling statistic that we collected. It is not much different than what we've surveyed our members a couple times during the pandemic, but these issues around teaching during COVID have affected the career plans of many teachers. Nearly 1 in 4 educators responded that they plan on leaving the profession. In LPS and OPS, it's closer to 1 in 3 educators, 23% statewide, 30% in Lincoln, 31% in Omaha. Those are startling numbers. This was a feeling, right? Feelings are important during this pandemic. They can't be more important. Caring, empathy, understanding. No matter if you're an educator, if you're a parent, you're a stakeholder, you're a business owner, we all need to understand that we need to care about one another. And when you're talking about educators and they are saying 86% of them are overwhelmed, stressed, frustrated, and worried. Some of those things are about themselves, but most of those feelings are about the students and their families and what trauma they're going through as well, and trying to provide the very best education that we can despite the circumstances. (2,269) respondents wrote comments. Some were paragraphs, pages. Some were one word, and the word was help. But lots of them were heartbreaking. Our members are used to going the extra miles. They really truly care about students. We know that. We value public education in Nebraska. I've spent, since school started, I've gone 3,200 miles driving across the state 3 times, visiting schools, visiting educators, talking to families. I grew up in Western Nebraska. I have a lot of family there. Everyone is struggling, whether you're an educator or a family member or a student. But our teachers and our educators their feelings are real. Their frustration is real. The current teacher reality. Teachers are being asked, we had that slide a minute ago about plan time. Teachers are being asked to give up their plan time because we don't have enough educators, because of COVID, because of just normal things that are happening. I have a teacher whose grandmother died. He didn't want to go to the service in North Platte because he didn't want to leave school, and he knew what a burden that would be on his coworkers. They are planning for students in their classrooms as well as remotely at the same time. And that is happening across the state. As we have more and more students quarantined, we have more and more students on remote, and it's just not sustainable. Now they're saying, oh, that's okay. Let's just give you more kids in your classroom. Instead of you covering for another class, we'll just divide up the class, and the 25 kindergartners you have now, we'll give you 6 more from another teacher's class because we don't have any substitutes to cover. We did a survey of our retired members. They are great substitutes, but hundreds of them were not subbing this year because of their own health concerns and their own high risk. Teachers are becoming ill. and it is being spread in school. It is. It has to be, because they're doing everything right. And getting fingers pointed at them and saying, oh, you did something wrong. You had a baby shower. You ate lunch together. You did it. You. Yet I look on Facebook, I look on social media, and bars and restaurants are posting great big Husker parties, hundreds and hundreds of people without masks. And yet we're pointing fingers at teenagers who had a slumber party with 5 friends, or we're pointing fingers at educators. The blame needs to stop and actions need to start taking place. Our hospitals and our schools are breaking under the burdens that we're placing upon them. And it's affecting both hospitals and schools. We have a choice. We have to take action now, or our schools are going to have to close. Not because we don't believe that the best place for children is to be in school, but because we don't have the manpower. It's not safe for our educators and our students to be in school. And our hospitals are breaking. When the governor had dinner outside with his friends, said he followed all the protocols, did everything right, and yet he quarantined. He's still quarantined for 14 days. If he was a teacher and he had been exposed, he would have been back in school. So what are we saying? That the teachers are more essential than our governor is? Or are our teachers just expendable? This is a hard time for all of us. When I taught school, never thought I'd be the president of a 28,000 member teacher association. Never thought that when I was washing dishes in the Sutherland Elementary cafeteria to earn my lunch because we were on free and reduced lunch. I never thought that, but here I am. People are struggling. They're struggling with their emotions. I'm struggling with my emotions. I am well known for crying. No doubt about it. My members know it. The board of my Nsea board knows it. Everyone who knows me knows it. My top Gallup strength is positivity and woo. My true color is blue. And I can guarantee that many, many teachers fall right under that, meaning that they care so deeply about what's happening. I had the privilege to choose the 2021 Teacher of the Year, Paul Tim from Lyons Decatur. Paul has had COVID with his entire family. I want to read you what Paul said. He's recovering from COVID. I'm improved, but I'm still not well. Last week, he went back to school after being home with pretty severe symptoms, and also using his COVID as a teaching experience for his students. It was fabulous to watch him say, okay, I don't have any taste and smell. Let's do an experiment. What does that look like? That's what teachers do, even when they're sick with COVID. Paul said, I'm improved, but I'm still not well. I worked 6.5 class periods, and I came home exhausted with a massive headache. At the beginning of the school year, I had regularly been running 3 to 4 miles 4 times a week. I didn't go into this thing out of shape, but right now I feel the least physically able that I've been in my life. It's not a good feeling. But he's back teaching every day. Every day. Last week, one of our retired members passed away. Not from COVID, but due to COVID. He went to the hospital to be seen for a medical issue. And his wife said, we worked our way through urgent care, the ER system, hours of waiting for something that possibly could have been prevented if he had not been in ER lines for 10 hours. His life basically ended in the ER hallway because they were short of staff. He taught for 39 years. He didn't even have time to enjoy his retirement or his grandkids. Not because he got COVID, but because of COVID. I've been teaching for over 30 years, special education, pre-K all the way through college level. Let me use every teacher skill I have to get this lesson across. If the leadership in this state won't make hard decisions and put mandates in place, our schools will close. Whether or not they stand up and say schools need to remain open, our schools will close. Our hospitals will continue to be overrun, and more Nebraskans will die. Our friends, our family. And we hold Governor Ricketts, the one person in this state who could actually mandate change. We hold him 100% accountable for what is happening. I've talked to too many leaders who are afraid to do anything because of what the governor says or has behind the scenes said what he will do to them. I'm afraid of things. I really am. I'm afraid for myself with type 1 diabetes and my husband with a 90% blockage in an artery to his brain that he needs surgery that he might not be able to get. I'm afraid for my educators, for my friends, for my teachers, for my 8 grandchildren, for my major son, I was gonna say major pain, but my son who's a major in the Army, who lives in El Paso, Texas, and is in charge of the COVID response at his entire base. We're afraid. I have a friend who just went into the hospital at UNMC. I'm afraid for her. We can't do this anymore. It's not sustainable. Maddie?
So NSEA is calling for action. The time to act is now. We don't have any more time to wait. We're joining with the medical experts from UNMC and around Nebraska, asking, imploring, beseeching the governor to immediately issue directed health measures that will call for mandatory masks statewide. Limit gatherings of people indoors or outdoors to 10 people. Stop all indoor dining, close the bars. Start a Takeout Nebraska campaign. And de-densify our classrooms. We can't have classrooms split and more kids put into classrooms when everyone knows you need to stay farther apart, not closer together. We're calling on our administrators to use alternative staffing and to change student attendance patterns if needed, especially when students have their masks off to eat. We're also calling for a moratorium on all in-person youth and high school sports and extracurricular activities until January. We do not do this lightly. We know how important these things are to kids. However, we feel that a 6-week moratorium will allow us to celebrate spring sports with our students, to come back healthy instead of to lose more students and lose more staff. We also implore administrators to be utilizing the tools at their disposal to provide the necessary reliefs for staff. The Nebraska Department of Education, under the guidance of Commissioner Bloomstead and with the support of the State Board of Education, has made it very clear that they are willing to help and that they have put out new guidelines to show administrators how they could be helping their teachers. That they do not have to be doing evaluations for non-probationary teachers. They could suspend the evaluations for non-probationary teachers. We could be making curriculum adjustments. Pacing guides that dictate academic progress are irrelevant in a pandemic. When you have to add mass breaks, when you have to add cleaning breaks, when you have to add so much time to make sure our kids are safe, it does not make sense to also follow an arbitrary pacing guideline. We also need to be providing more planned time, not just more training, as allowed by the Department of Education and posted on their website. The commissioner has allowed for 12 hours per quarter of additional time for teachers to be able to plan. But we have administrators who are refusing to use that, who are saying, well, no, that's only if you have remote learning. Well, that's only if. The commissioner did not put many restrictions on that at all. He is basically telling his administrators, tell me how I can help you, and we are here at the ready. We also need more administrators and other certificated staff without full-time teaching responsibilities to cover classes, instead of taking away teacher plan time and increasing the number of students in class. We also are calling on districts to provide factual COVID numbers to the public and school staff. It's very alarming when we hear one thing from our staff and see something else being posted on a website. We want factual information, and there are several districts who are doing this and who are being very public. My son, I get an email almost every day saying, we found out this person had COVID, not by name, but this school and this school. That's the type of information parents need to be making informed decisions. My husband also has cancer, and our informed decision, because of what we got from our school district, was not to send our son back to school. But we were able to make that because of the transparency of his school district. We're also calling on administrators to listen to educator input and show their empathy and show their leadership. What does that look like? Showing empathy and showing leadership to a teacher is like last week, the superintendent of Gretna, we heard, was in the cafeteria making the pizzas because he was short on staff. It was roll up your sleeves, jump in and help. It's not the superintendent who went into a school district and was talking to a class. And when the little kiddos were complaining, how come we can't have recess? And how come we can't have this? He said, oh, well, those are decisions that were made by your teacher and your principal. That's not coming together as a team. We also know that it's important for administrators to follow the guidelines of their public health departments. We received a survey last week from one of our local officers that their district had put out a survey saying, well, we don't know if we should want to follow the advice of the medical experts right now. We might use our own formula. That's not what we should do. We should follow the advice of public health departments, of the CDC, of the people who know what they're doing. Jenny.
So those are some actions that we've been working on and we've been asking for. We know they're available. They're not that difficult. There are simple things that districts, administrators, locals could do to help their educators, to help their students, to keep learning happening. We also looked for any kind of legal things we could do as well to help our educators and to help our families. Our Nsea Board of Directors met yesterday, and on behalf of the Nsea board, on behalf of the Nsea members and students across the state, this week I will file a petition for declaratory action, wow, mouthful, with the State Board of Education. The petition will request that the state board declare the interventions and protocols recommended by the CDC, recommended by the University of Nebraska Medical Center, be adopted as specific safety criteria under which schools will operate and remain open until the risk of transmission is abated. I will request that the board direct studies, investigations, and reports be prepared regarding the transmission of the virus in the school system under its authority to take remedial action as necessary to enforce safety and accreditation standards. All of these documents will be posted. Will be sent out with specifics about the rules, Rule 62 or 3, Rule 10. There's all sorts of rules that we all must abide by. And we need to have very specific guidelines. We value, we appreciate, we work for local control across the state. But if that local control is jeopardizing the safety and well-being of your students, of your future, of your educators, then somebody needs to step in. That's what we have those rules for. And we are asking the state board to do that, and to do that with their authority. I just want to say that, you know, we have a state board for Nsea that represents every area of the state. 32 members on the board, most of which are full-time teachers, paraprofessionals, technicians, students, and retired members. They are all living with this. We are not making decisions in a bubble. We're not making autocratic decisions, and we're not just saying, oh, Jenni Benson wants this, or Maddie Fennell wants this. That is not how we're doing any of this. But I wouldn't go to my doctor's office and say to them, you know what, I don't think you know what you're doing just because you have a medical degree. Why don't you do this? But we do that all the time in schools with our profession. We have everybody telling everybody in education how to do their job. But we would never dream of doing that to an attorney or a doctor. But we are going to tell the governor how to do his job, because we need him to do his job. And his first and foremost job, just like mine is to protect the safety and well-being of his students, of his families, of our educators. Maddie?
And this has nothing to do with politics. Our members are representative of the state. And when I say it has nothing to do with politics, it doesn't matter if our members are Republicans or Democrats. And let me tell you, our membership is completely reflective of the state as a whole. Almost half of our members are Republicans. This is not what this is about. This is not about coming after a candidate or a governor that we may have not have supported in the past. This is about what is in the best interests of students and staff across the state. Teachers want to be with their students teaching. We know that our schools are of crucial importance to the safety of our students, to maintaining our economy, and supporting the families of our healthcare workers who are so valiantly working right now. But they can't do their jobs if they're sick. And to our colleagues, if you're sick, you have to stay home. We have teachers across the state who've reached out to us and said, hey, I'm really sick, but I'm being told I still have to come in. No, if you're sick, you don't have to come into school. Now is not the time to say it's easier to fill out to come into school than it is to write sub plans, because we all know you're probably not going to get a sub anyway right now. So if you're sick, stay home. And if your administration is telling you to go in sick, please reach out to our staff and we'll help you. This is not calling for a sick out in any way, shape, or form. We believe in the laws of this state. We are not asking our members to walk out, to sick out, to work to the contract, or anything of the sort. What we're saying is that teachers will get better faster if they're sick and they stay home, and they won't spread this virus or any other virus if they're sick and stay home. It's time to put the common good above our own personal comforts or political interests. If the leadership in our state doesn't start making the tough decisions, our school system is going to break under the burdens we're placing on our staff. We know our hospitals are all already to the breaking point. So we join with our colleagues in the health industry. We join with the health experts at UNMC, and we ask that these actions be taken now. And with that, we will stop and answer any questions that you have. You can put them in the chat, or you can, oh, I have to stop my screen. Or you
could raise your hand, that way we could call upon you.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop my side-by-side view so I can see everybody. And our communication staff will help if you put a question in the chat or if you want to speak. Oh, can they be unmuted?
So Bill, yeah, Bill Kelly has a question. Bill, let me see if I can unmute you. Hold on a second. No, I'm not able to. I'm going to have to let Kelsey do
Just
that.
go
But
ahead
his
and let
question
everybody
is,
unmute them. Yeah.
Jenny,
Thank
his question is, Governor Ricketts is likely to respond that Nsea is a frequent political critic and dismiss criticism as politically based attacks on his administration. Should this be considered a routine response in a political vein? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I guess we would expect that response. I could say that lots of things could have been done differently, including, doing a declaration for our 150th anniversary as the oldest labor union in the state. And instead, our teachers didn't get any kind of credence for that. So again, it is what it is. I don't think anything we're saying is based on opinion or a political agenda whatsoever. I think it's based on, again, looking at the experts. UNMC is considered an expert across the nation. Look at the beginning of this, UNMC was out there, just everyone. Look at UNMC, they're the greatest. They are unbelievable. And now it's like, not so much. Really? What happened? Political happened. That's what happened. But UNMC is still the experts. And those are the experts that we rely upon, because we're not the experts in those kind of things. We're relying on experts, just as the governor should rely on experts in education, which our teachers are. Thank you.
I see that KLIN has a question. Is Nsea working with UNMC on the specific recommendations and demands that have been outlined in your presentation?
We have been working with UNMC. We've had I don't know how many Facebook Lives, and UNMC has been a part of those as well. We really did reach out specifically to UNMC to look at just very specific suggestions. I'm going to let Maddie address that. We will have Dr. Lowe on our Facebook Live to go over these things and talk about specific recommendations when we have our Facebook Live on November 19th. Maddie?
Yes, we were in contact with Dr. Lowe and with a number of the doctors from UNMC, as well as their communications department last week. We read their media, we saw what they were encouraging the governor to do, and we felt that it was important to amplify what they were saying. We also added what we had heard from our teachers across the state, but our 4 primary mandates that we are asking for are exactly the same things that UNMC has been calling for. The mandatory mask mandate, limiting 10 people to indoor and outdoor gatherings, closing bars and stopping out indoor dining, starting a Takeout Nebraska campaign instead, and making sure we're de-densifying our classrooms, especially during times of eating. And UNMC is doing that on their campuses across the University of Nebraska system, and we think that needs to happen across our state.
Thank you. I'm reading in the chat from Bill Kelly at NET asking about equitable. So when this pandemic started and we as educators were turned on a dime to go remote, we did not have an equitable way to address the needs of all of our students. And that includes broadband, that includes access to technology, that includes the ability to have a parent at home with them to work on certain things. So when we're talking about equitable, we're talking about equitable for our students across the state. And so as we moved into summer and our teachers and our buildings spent hours and hours on training, and districts then looked at their technology and they used the CARES Act money to purchase devices so that children would have access at home if need be. And then also they looked at the broadband. You know, we've tried for several years to have the state look at broadband accessibility, internet accessibility, which, by the way, it should be a public utility. It's not like it should be a extra add-on, because everyone needs it now. And if you do not have that access, then it is not equitable. And we believe that there are many communities and many communities within cities that are the most vulnerable. Those are the most vulnerable for COVID as well. And so if we cannot address the inequities by making sure that we're reaching out, making sure people are getting fed, making sure we apply for SNAP benefits, for crying out loud, for the state of Nebraska, without sitting in our ivory tower saying, oh, people are fine, we're providing what people need. You know what? Listen to the people. It is not our place, and especially in the time of a pandemic, to judge another person, another family's situation. Our job as educators, as citizens, as human beings, is to care about other people. And that is what equity and equality is all about. Karen, do I have any more questions?
Yes, we do. In fact, Channel 7 is asking, what resources do teachers have currently to report breaks in protocol concerning behaviors? Would you say there's a heightened sense that there's no real job security even in these circumstances? So two-part question there.
So teachers are living, you know, when I said we're afraid, everybody's afraid of something. And teachers are afraid of speaking out as well. And if they do speak out, then they're not met sometimes. And when I say in general terms, there are districts that are doing a fabulous job. There are administrators, building administrators, district administrators, you know, people that are working within the system are doing a great job, school boards. But then there are others who really, I mean, I've had school board members say, you know, I'm just really tired of this. Really? You're tired of this? You are elected to do a job. Your teachers are working at a job and getting paid. They should have a way to express their concerns. And several districts do have things on their websites, send out surveys, do those kind of things. But we really believe that there needs to be more. Used to be, you know, you were in school and you'd say, here's a list of, you know, members, teachers, staff who are gone today. Now teachers are telling me nobody even tells them who's gone. You don't know who's gone until they say, hey, can you cover third period for so-and-so? And you didn't even know they were out. And people don't need to know the reason people are out. But if you don't communicate with people, and that's the biggest problem right now, is that the communication across the state is, and we understand it changes on a dime. We understand that, but there has to be a way to better communicate and help folks understand what's happening on their daily, in their daily lives. And so, yeah, it becomes scary to do that. And that's why Maddie had said, you reach out to your staff, reach out to your local leader, reach out to your staff at Nsea. They're working around the clock on individual specific cases to address those as well.
I want to dovetail on something Jenni said, which is communication. Too often teachers are hearing about things after the decisions have been made, and then they're trying to implement decisions that were made with the best of intentions. But if you don't have the educator at the table when making the decisions, you're going to end up with an implementation gap, which is the difference between thought and reality. And so we encourage and we support those administrators who are making decisions with teachers actually at the table, not pulling them in later and saying, this is what we've decided, but bringing them in and saying, this is what we're thinking of. What do you think about that? We had one local association president, one a district superintendent who sat down with 100 questions that they'd received, and they worked through all the answers together and then put those out to the staff together so that everybody could see that they were working in concert for their health and safety. And that brought a tremendous sense of comfort to those educators. There was another question in the chat about, could we please go over the next steps in working to have the demands met? Well, the first step is the governor has to do this. that school boards don't have the opportunity or don't have the leverage in all of this. The State Board of Ed doesn't. It's the governor who has the leverage to do this across our state. We need our communities to be a part of this. It is not helpful if we're only wearing masks in school, but as Jenni said, people are out and about and not wearing masks in other places. We have parents who are sending their kids to school when they know they're sick. I understand parents need to go to work, but then that just further exacerbates our problems. So the first thing we need is for the governor to make it very clear that this is serious and it's serious across the state by issuing those mandates. Then we need the State Board of Ed to tell everybody, here is what you need to do to be safe. This is what we are expecting of you, to make sure that there's clear guidelines to every school district that all of us can uphold. I mean, I've heard from administrators who say, we don't know who we're supposed to listen to. Well, then our state board needs to step up, and we know they want to step up. We know they want to help, and they need to help set those guidelines as to what safety is in our schools right now during a pandemic. And then we just need everybody to follow the guidelines. Wear your mask. Stop thinking a mask is a political statement. It's a statement of health, it's a statement of safety, and it's a statement of love for all the people around you. So wear them.
Thank you. I see in there about legal remedies or possible work stoppages. Maddie addressed that a little bit when we talked. We believe in the law. We believe in what we have in Nebraska, and we are not in any way, shape, or form organizing any kind of work stoppage or anything like that for our members. And we are making sure that we let them know that that is not okay. There are other ways to work through the situations. As far as legal remedies, we believe the state school board situation doing this action is one of our legal remedies that we can use. And we also have very specific cases within our membership that have come to staff and need, legal advice. There may be legal remedies that way, but just like a personnel situation, those aren't things that we would ever discuss publicly. Maddie, did you want to say anything else about that? If you see that question in the chat.
I agree with you 100%, Jenni. We're not going to call for a work stoppage, but work is going to stop, just like it did for several districts in the last few weeks, because they simply didn't have enough people to keep school going. It's not going to be anything we organize. It's just going to be the reality, because there's not enough healthy adults to keep school open.
All of this information, the PowerPoint, the charts, the survey results are already posted on nsea.org/survey. So you can go on there and find a copy of the PowerPoint. And when this press conference is over, we will also update and post a recording of the press conference. Again, we are having a Facebook Live with Dr. Lowe on Thursday evening as well. Karen, am I missing anything?
I actually have a question from KMTV.
Kelsey, identify yourself and then you can ask the question.
Yes, thank you, Jenni. Kelsey Foley, Nsea Communications Associate. I had a question from KMTV. Are you hearing about any cases of school administration retaliating against teachers who speak out about their district's COVID-19 response?
I would say that we hear in general, social media, there's a lot of things being posted on social media, and we hear things that way. We also hear through staff, and that the staff will work with specific cases. But I really believe also that our locals are working very closely. And if there are cases such as that, then they are being swiftly dealt with. We have a superintendent who will drive to buildings and know and deal with those situations. We want them to deal with the situations, and it's totally unacceptable and again, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, seriously, get over your own ego and help people. Help. It doesn't matter what situation we're in. And, if there's a situation where, we need a mediation or somebody to sit sit down and work through the parties involved, then that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that our students are getting the best education they can get, and having petty retaliation or those kind of ego-related responses is totally unacceptable.
We've heard many stories of superintendents and school board or and school administrators who are doing all they can. We've actually had school administrators reach out to us, and they're in tears because they're worried about their own staff. We have heard situations where staff want to quarantine because they've been exposed. They have members in their family who are sick and they feel that they should stay home, and they feel their districts have come to them and said, no, you just need to sign off on this document saying that you'll check your temperature twice a day and then get back in school. And they don't feel that that is in the best interest of themselves or their students or their colleagues. And so those are situations where we do have members that feel that they are being pushed to go back when they really shouldn't be. We have another question from Jose at KETV. Do you expect the State Board of Education to follow through on having your back? And how can they hold the governor accountable? The State Board of Education we are so incredibly pleased with the work of our State Board of Ed and how hard they work to meet the needs of our students, as well as the work of our commissioner. We are lucky, we believe, because they do have quite a bit of autonomy. And we expect them to exercise that autonomy. We know that many of them are former educators and they understand what teachers are going through. And we know that they have been looking for leverage that they can pull to do more. So we do believe that they will use this as an opportunity to step forward and to actively support educators in the work that they are doing, just as they've done in the past, just as the commissioner has done in the past. I think we all have a responsibility to hold the governor accountable. I don't think any one of us can do it alone. You know, it was very hard on teachers when they saw the governor quarantine himself, and yet he said that they did not need to quarantine. I think, you know, what you do means a lot more to people than what you say. And the governor's actions were very troubling for teachers. It really made them wonder, are we essential or are we expendable? We would think that the governor would hold himself to the same standard as he's holding us, which would mean that he should have stayed at work, worn a mask, checked his temperature twice a day, just as educators are expected to do. So I think we need to hold the governor accountable. If he expects all of us to operate under certain rules, he should operate under the same rules. But we do believe that our friends at the State Board of Education, who have shown tremendous commitment to the staff and the students across this state, will use this as an opportunity to even be able to increase the work that they're doing.
Karen, communications, do we have any more questions?
We will be posting this information on nsea.org//survey, and we'll have the PowerPoint there as well. If you need anything else, media, please feel free to email me at karen.kilgaren@nsea.org. It's in the news release that I sent. So that's, I think that's pretty much it, unless
Karen, we had one more question. Margaret Ozaki, the declaratory petition will be sent to NDE. This is not a gotcha. We contacted Commissioner Bloomstead. We contacted all the members of the state board. We let them know we're going to be asking for this. And so it's not any kind of gotcha. Now we're trying to work in concert with people across the state. And so they do know it's coming. It's just a matter of the attorneys getting it written up.
Yeah, NDE, through their rules, have the ability and the responsibility, in fact, to issue such an order. And we do have some additional information for anybody who wants to get into the weeds on that, some of the legal information. We'll be sending out a news release when we actually file that petition, which will be shortly, is my understanding, in a day or so, maybe even today, I'm not sure. Jenny probably knows, so.
Yep, that's right. So, well, I just want to thank you. We didn't want to take up, more than an hour. We're at 50 minutes, so I think we did well. And you all know that you can reach out to Karen at any time. And the posting of this will be on our social media page and on our NSEA website. We'll post the recording on it as soon as it takes a while, for Zoom to process through a recording. So we will post it as soon as we can. Karen has put her email in the chat if anyone needs anything. I want to thank you very much for your support of our public education and our educators, our staff in Nebraska. I think that we continue to believe that we are stronger together and that we are all in this together. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and to share what our educators are going through. And thank you very much. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.